The lawyer's office smelled like old paper and broken promises. I sat across from my brother Ryan expecting we'd split Dad's estate fairly, the house on Maple Ridge, his savings, maybe even Ryan's 40% share in Caldwell & Sons. Instead, Ryan leaned back with that smug grin I'd learned to hate and announced, "Dad updated the will 3 months ago. Everything, the house, the savings, even Dad's toolbox, went to him alone." The lawyer shuffled papers, avoiding my eyes. "It's all legal, Mr. Caldwell." Ryan's wife Tamara watched me with cold satisfaction, her perfectly manicured nails tapping the armrest. "Dad always knew you weren't leadership material, Ethan," Ryan said. The words hit like a hammer to the chest. I'd spent 30 years fixing that house with my own hands, caring for Dad when Ryan was too busy. Now I was supposed to just accept this. I stood slowly, legs shaking, and walked toward the door. Behind me, Tamara's whisper carried, "He has nothing now." I stopped. My hand froze on the doorknob. Something inside me shifted, quiet, cold, and focused. 2 days later, I drove to the childhood home to collect my toolbox. The driveway felt longer than I remembered. When I reached the front door, my key wouldn't turn. They'd changed the locks already. Through the living room window, I watched Ryan and Tamara walking around like they owned the place, because legally they did. Ryan pointed at Dad's old recliner, laughing about something. Tamara held up a photo frame, examining it like merchandise. My throat tight. I'd repaired that porch, painted those shutters, fixed the roof after the storm. Every corner held my work, my sweat, my years. Now I couldn't even walk inside. I turned to leave, humiliation burning through me. Mrs. Patterson from next door was watering her roses. She looked at me with genuine concern. "Ethan, you should know something," she said quietly. "I heard Ryan talking on his phone last week. His company's in serious trouble." I stopped walking. "What kind of trouble?" She hesitated. "The kind that makes a man desperate." That night I couldn't sleep. Mrs. Patterson's words played on repeat. I opened my laptop and searched for Caldwell & Sons. What I found made my stomach turn. The company had 3 active lawsuits from unpaid subcontractors. Online reviews screamed about unfinished projects and ignored complaints. The business section of the local paper mentioned financial difficulties and restructuring concerns. I clicked through public records, liens, missed payments, angry suppliers. This wasn't just trouble, this was a sinking ship, and suddenly it made horrible sense. Ryan didn't want the inheritance because he loved Dad. He needed it because his company was drowning. Dad's life savings, probably gone already, dumped into Ryan's failing business like water into a cracked bucket. I closed the laptop, anger mixing with something else. Clarity. The next morning I found an envelope in my truck, my name in Dad's handwriting. The postmark showed it was mailed 2 days before he died. My hands shook as I opened it. Dad's letter was short, written in his careful print. "Ethan, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I'm sorry about your brother. He's made choices I can't fix. You were always the responsible one, the one who showed up when it mattered. Don't let Ryan ruin what I built. You're stronger than you know. Love, Dad." I read it 3 times, tears blurring the words. He knew. Dad knew Ryan would do something like this, but there was something else, a line near the bottom that made me pause. "We talked about changes to the will last month, but I wanted to think it over more. Changes, but nothing about leaving me with nothing." I folded the letter carefully and sat in my truck for an hour, staring at nothing. Dad believed in me, he'd said so, and his last wish was clear: don't let Ryan destroy the family legacy. I wiped my eyes and started the engine. If I couldn't fight this legally, maybe there was another way. I drove to Holbrook & Associates, a law firm Dad had trusted. Marcus Holbrook listened carefully as I explained everything: the will, the timing, the suspicious circumstances. He reviewed the documents, frowning. "The will is legitimate, Ethan. I wish I could tell you otherwise." My heart sank. "But the timing bothers me too," he continued. "Your father was sharp until the end. This feels convenient for Ryan." Marcus leaned back. "Legally, you can't challenge it without hard evidence of coercion or fraud, but there's something else you should know." He pulled up information on his computer. "Caldwell & Sons is extremely vulnerable right now. Debt, mismanagement, angry creditors. That company won't survive another 6 months at this rate." I stared at the screen. "What are you saying?" Marcus met my eyes. "I'm saying Ryan may have won the inheritance, but he's losing something bigger, and if someone with integrity stepped in. That's leverage if you want it." I sat in my truck outside the law office, holding Dad's letter. The words echoed, "Don't let Ryan ruin what I built." For years I'd been the quiet one, the fix-it guy, the brother who kept the peace. But peace only works when both sides care about what's right. Ryan didn't. He'd stolen my inheritance, changed the locks, and spit on everything Dad valued. Not for love, for money to cover his failures. I wouldn't let Dad's name die with Ryan's incompetence. Not for revenge, for justice. For dignity. I made a decision then. I would rebuild what Ryan tried to destroy the right way: legal, ethical, smart. My phone rang. Unknown number. "Ethan Caldwell," a gruff voice asked. "This is Tom Brennan. I'm a contractor, worked with your dad years back. Heard you might be looking for work. I know an investor who needs a partner, someone with integrity." I closed my eyes. Sometimes the universe hands you exactly what you need. "I'm listening," I said. The restaurant was quiet, upscale. Gerald Whitmore was in his 60s, silver hair, sharp suit, sharper eyes. He got straight to business. "I acquire struggling companies in construction and turn them around, but I need someone on the ground, someone who knows the work, not just the spreadsheets." "Tom says you're that person." I nodded slowly. "I've been an electrician for 30 years. I know construction." Gerald smiled. "Tom also said you're honest. That matters more than experience." We talked for an hour, my background, my approach to work, my values. He asked about family. I hesitated, then told him about Dad, about Ryan. Gerald listened without judgment, then he leaned forward. There's a particular company I'm looking at, local, decent name, terrible management, Caldwell & Sons. My coffee cup stopped halfway to my mouth. Gerald watched my reaction carefully. That's my brother's company, I said quietly. I know, Gerald replied. Is that a problem? I wanted to say yes. I wanted to walk away from anything involving Ryan. But Gerald kept talking. This isn't about revenge, Ethan. It's about saving a company your father started. Right now it's circling the drain because your brother doesn't know what he's doing. I thought about Dad's workers, the people who'd built their careers under the Caldwell name, about the legacy being destroyed by arrogance and greed. I'd be lying if I said there wasn't history, I admitted. Ryan just took everything my father left me, the inheritance, the house, even my tools. Gerald nodded. Then you understand what's at stake. He's using that inheritance right now to patch holes in a sinking ship. If we don't step in, the company collapses, workers lose jobs, and your father's name becomes a cautionary tale. He slid a folder across the table. Look at the financials first, then decide. I opened the folder. What I saw made my hands go cold. The numbers were devastating. Ryan had inflated invoices, cut corners on safety, ignored supplier invoices for months. Workers were being paid late, some not at all. 3 major projects sat unfinished because Ryan had spent the deposits on older debts. Insurance claims piled up. The company owed more than it could ever pay, and there, buried in the records, were deposits that matched Dad's savings almost exactly. Ryan had taken the inheritance and thrown it into this fire, hoping it would be enough. It wasn't. The company was still dying, just slower. I looked up at Gerald. He used everything Dad left him to cover his mistakes. And it's still not enough, Gerald confirmed. Without intervention, this company folds in 4 months, maybe less. I thought about Dad's letter, about what he'd want. If we do this, I said carefully, we do it right, no shortcuts, no revenge. We save the company and fix what's broken. Gerald extended his hand. That's exactly why I need you. I shook it. Then yes, let's do this. Over the next 2 weeks, I quietly visited job sites associated with Caldwell & Sons. I wore plain clothes, introduced myself as a subcontracting consultant, asked questions. Workers opened up fast. Nobody's scared to complain to a stranger. Ryan doesn't listen, one foreman said, shaking his head. We tell him the schedule's impossible. He yells and demands we make it work anyway. Another worker, younger, looked exhausted. I haven't been paid in 3 weeks. He keeps saying it's coming, but I got bills. A supplier I'd known for years pulled me aside. Ethan, I heard about your dad. I'm sorry, but you should know Ryan's burning bridges everywhere. Nobody trusts him anymore. Every conversation confirmed what the financials showed. The rot wasn't just numbers, it was culture, arrogance. Ryan treated people like tools, not humans. And Tamara made it worse, strutting through offices like she owned the place, making demands, dismissing concerns. One foreman said it best, he's one mistake away from total collapse. I thanked him and walked away. That mistake was coming, soon. Gerald moved carefully, approaching suppliers first. Many were owed thousands and had given up hope of payment. When Gerald offered to buy their outstanding debt at a discount with my reputation as guarantee, they jumped at it. Within 3 weeks, we controlled over 60% of Ryan's liabilities. Ryan had no idea. He was too busy putting out fires. Then my phone rang. Ryan's name lit up the screen. I hadn't heard from him since the will reading. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. Ethan, his voice was tight, stressed. I need to talk to you. About what? I kept my tone neutral. Let's meet for lunch tomorrow, please. The please surprised me. Ryan never begged. All right, I said. Morty's at noon. He agreed quickly and hung up. I called Gerald immediately. Ryan just reached out. He wants to meet. Gerald was quiet for a moment. Then good, let him talk, learn what he knows. And after, Gerald said calmly, we're ready. Ryan arrived at Morty's 10 minutes late, looking worse than I'd ever seen him. Wrinkled shirt, shadows under his eyes, hands that wouldn't stop moving. He ordered coffee he didn't drink. Thanks for coming, he started. I know things have been difficult. I said nothing. He cleared his throat. Look, I'm dealing with some cash flow issues at the company, temporary stuff, but some of my suppliers are being unreasonable and I need help smoothing things over. What kind of help? You know people. Good people, contractors, electricians, suppliers who trust you. If you could just, put in a word, help me get extensions, maybe even some new contracts. He trailed off. I let the silence stretch. You want me to use my reputation to save your company? Our father's company, Ryan corrected quickly. It's his legacy, Ethan. Don't you want to protect that? The audacity nearly made me laugh. Where was that concern when you took everything he left me? Ryan's face hardened. I knew you'd bring that up. Dad made his choice, Ethan. He left the business to me because I could handle it. Can you? I asked quietly. His jaw tightened. He stood abruptly. Figures, you were always useless when it mattered. He threw cash on the table and left. My phone buzzed immediately. Gerald, we're ready. I smiled for the first time in weeks. Gerald's team moved fast. Within 48 hours, he purchased the majority of Caldwell & Sons' outstanding debt from suppliers, subcontractors, and even 2 smaller creditors. Suddenly, Gerald didn't just have leverage, he owned Ryan's leash. The banks noticed immediately. When one entity controls that much debt, it raises red flags. They demanded an emergency audit and scheduled a meeting with Ryan to discuss restructuring options. Ryan had 72 hours to prepare. He had no idea what was coming. I stayed away, watching from a distance as Gerald's team applied pressure, not maliciously, just professionally. Legal letters, payment demand notices, formal audits, everything above board. Ryan panicked. I heard through mutual contacts that he was yelling at staff, blaming everyone but himself. Tamara tried to charm the auditors but got nowhere. She wasn't used to people who didn't care about appearances. Then the bomb dropped. Gerald's attorney sent a formal buyout offer directly to the board of directors, bypassing Ryan entirely. An emergency meeting was scheduled for Monday morning. Ryan would have to face the reality he'd been avoiding for months, and I'd be there to watch. The boardroom was tense when I arrived with Gerald. Ryan was already there, packing, red-faced. Tamara sat rigid beside him, arms crossed. 3 board members sat silently, looking uncomfortable. Ryan froze when he saw me. "What the hell are you doing here?" His voice cracked with anger. I sat down calmly, saying nothing. Gerald took the head of the table. "Gentlemen, Mrs. Caldwell, thank you for coming. We have important business to discuss." Ryan slammed his hand on the table. "This is my company. You can't just—" "Mr. Caldwell," one of the board members interrupted quietly. "Please sit down." Ryan sat, jaw clenched. Gerald opened his briefcase and pulled out a thick folder. He slid it across the table toward Ryan. "As of this morning, my firm controls 73% of your company's outstanding debt. Additionally, the bank has frozen your operating line of credit pending resolution of multiple defaults." Ryan's face went white. Tamara grabbed the folder, flipping through pages, her confidence evaporating with every line she read. "This is a setup," she hissed. "This is business," Gerald corrected, "and it's been mismanaged for far too long." Gerald laid it out methodically. Every missed payment, every safety violation, every inflated invoice. The board members looked sicker with each revelation. Ryan tried to interrupt, but Gerald's attorney shut him down with documentation. "Cold, legal, undeniable. The company is insolvent," Gerald concluded. "Without immediate restructuring and new leadership, it will fold within 60 days. We're offering a buyout that keeps the doors open and protects jobs." "You can't do this," Ryan growled. "It's my company." "Actually," one board member said quietly, "it's a corporation and we have a fiduciary duty to the employees and stakeholders. This offer protects them." Tamara pointed at me. "This is revenge. He's been planning this for years because he's jealous." I finally spoke. "I've been an electrician for 30 years. I didn't even know about the company's problems until a month ago." Gerald nodded. "Mr. Caldwell has agreed to join as the new head of operations. The board has already voted." Ryan shot to his feet. "Voted without me?" "We had a quorum," the board member replied, "and given the circumstances, we had no choice." Gerald's voice was firm. "There will be immediate leadership changes effective today." Ryan's voice rose to a shout. "You can't fire me from my own company. You'll retain a minority share," Gerald explained calmly. "But operational control transfers immediately. The company needs experienced, ethical leadership." Tamara stood, voice shaking with fury. "Ethical? He's destroying you out of spite." One of the board members, an older man named Carl who'd worked with Dad, spoke up. "Mrs. Caldwell, I've reviewed these financials. Your husband has run this company into the ground. Ethan isn't destroying anything, he's trying to save it." "From what?" Ryan demanded. Carl looked at him with something close to pity. "From you." The room went silent. Ryan's face cycled through emotions: rage, disbelief, desperation. Finally he turned to me. "You planned this, all of it." "No," I said quietly. "You planned this when you stole my inheritance and used it to cover your failures. I'm just cleaning up the mess." Gerald stood. "We'll take a 15-minute recess. When we return, we'll finalize the transition." Ryan stared at me like he'd never seen me before. Then he walked out, Tamara following, her heels clicking like gunshots. When they returned, Ryan was deflated, beat. He sat down without a word. Gerald addressed the room. "As agreed, Ethan Caldwell will assume the role of Director of Operations effective immediately. He'll oversee all projects, finances, and personnel decisions." One board member nodded. "Approved." Another, seconded. Carl looked at Ryan. "You'll remain as a consultant for 90 days to facilitate transition. After that, your role will be determined based on company performance." Ryan's voice was barely a whisper. "You're firing me." "We're restructuring," Gerald corrected. "But yes, you no longer have operational authority." Tamara's face was white. For once she had nothing to say. Ryan turned to me, eyes desperate. "I'm your brother." "I know," I said. "That's why this hurts." Gerald slid a termination letter across the table. "Sign this and we'll proceed with severance and equity terms." Ryan stared at the paper like it might bite him. Then slowly he picked up the pen. His hand shook as he signed. When he finished, I stood. "Ryan, can we talk alone?" He looked up, surprised. Gerald nodded and the room cleared. Ryan and I sat across from each other in the now empty boardroom. He looked smaller somehow, like the suit he wore didn't fit anymore. "Why?" he asked finally. I pulled out a folder, the same one Gerald had shown me weeks ago. I spread the documents across the table, every unpaid invoice, every shortcut, every lie. "This is why," I said calmly. "You didn't lose this company to me, Ryan. You lost it to yourself." He stared at the papers, jaw working. "I was trying to save it. By cutting corners, by not paying people, by lying to clients." I leaned forward. Dad built this company on integrity. You traded that for shortcuts and arrogance. You don't understand the pressure. I understand you took our inheritance and gambled it away, I interrupted. I understand you changed the locks on the house I helped build. I understand you called me useless when I wouldn't bail you out. Ryan flinched. This isn't personal, Ryan, it's accountability. You made choices and choices have consequences. I slid the signed termination letter toward me. You're done here not because I hate you, because you failed. He didn't argue, couldn't. I stood to leave. One more thing, I said. Dad wrote me a letter before he died. He told me not to let you ruin what he built, so I won't. The door opened and Tamara stormed in before I could leave. You're really going to do this? Her voice was ice. Fire your own brother. He fired himself, I replied. The numbers don't lie. This is about the inheritance, isn't it? She stepped closer, eyes blazing. You couldn't handle that your father chose Ryan, so you— My father didn't choose Ryan, I said quietly. Ryan manipulated a sick man and forged a convenient will. You can't prove that. I don't have to. The company's failure proves what kind of man he is. Her face twisted. You self-righteous, we're going to lose everything because of you. No, I corrected. You're losing everything because Ryan didn't know how to run a business. I'm trying to save what's left. Ryan finally spoke, voice hollow. Tamara, stop. She turned to him, shocked. Ryan, he's right, Ryan said. I screwed up, all of it. For the first time I saw something real in my brother's face. Regret, shame. Security arrived then, two professional, polite men. Mr. and Mrs. Caldwell will escort you out. Ryan stood slowly, not looking at me. Tamara grabbed her purse, heels clicking sharply as they left. I watched them go, feeling nothing but tired. The first week was brutal. I walked through every job site, introduced myself to every worker and listened. Really listened. People were scared, angry, hopeless. Things are going to change, I told them. You'll be paid on time. Safety comes first, and if you have a problem, you bring it to me directly. Slowly, cautiously, they started to believe me. I brought in Carl and two other veterans who remembered how Dad ran things. Together we restructured schedules, renegotiated contracts, and prioritized finishing existing projects before taking new ones. I called every supplier personally, apologized for the delays, and worked out payment plans. Most were willing to give us a chance because they trusted me, not the company. By the end of the month, we'd completed 2 projects on time. Payments went out, workers smiled again. The Caldwell and Sons name started to mean something good again. One afternoon, a supplier I'd known for years handed me an envelope. Your dad gave this to me before he died, said if anything happened, I should give it to you. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside was a folded paper, older, worn. I recognized it immediately. It was a will, the original draft, dated 6 months before Dad died. It named Ryan and me as equal heirs. Equal shares in everything, the house, the savings, the company, but it was unsigned. A sticky note in Dad's handwriting read, couldn't decide, wanted to be fair, need more time. He'd never signed it. Maybe he couldn't choose between us. Maybe he'd been waiting for a sign. Then he got sick and Ryan convinced him to change everything. Or forged it, I'd never know for sure. I sat in the office, that unsigned will in my hands, and felt the weight of everything Dad had carried. He wanted to be fair, but fairness wasn't something Ryan understood. I filed the will away carefully. It didn't change anything legally, but it changed everything for me. Dad had believed in me. That was enough. I made a decision then. One final act to close this chapter for good. The company was stable now, profitable. Gerald and I had accomplished what we set out to do. It was time for the last step. 6 months later, Gerald and I sat in his office reviewing offers. Caldwell and Sons was healthy again, profitable, respected, growing. 3 companies wanted to buy it. We chose the one that promised to keep the staff and the name. The sale went through in 30 days. My share after Gerald took his cut was substantial, enough to change my life. But I only wanted one thing. The childhood home on Maple Ridge had gone up for sale 2 weeks earlier. Ryan couldn't afford it anymore, couldn't afford anything. I called the realtor the same day. I want to make an offer. She hesitated. You should know, Mr. Caldwell, your brother tried to buy it back last week. He couldn't secure financing. I smiled quietly. Make the offer, full asking price, cash. 3 days later it was mine. I stood in the driveway, keys in my hand, looking at the house I'd grown up in. The house I'd repaired with my own hands, the porch I'd rebuilt, the shutters I'd painted. Finally it was really mine, not stolen, earned. I unlocked my door, and stepped inside. I'd been working on the house for 2 weeks when Ryan showed up. I was replacing the old deck boards when I heard his truck pull up. He looked thinner, older, defeated. Ethan, his voice was quiet. Can we talk? I set down my hammer. Go ahead. He shifted uncomfortably. I heard you bought the house. I did, and the company, you sold it. We did. Gerald and I. Ryan swallowed hard. I need help, Ethan. I can't find work. Nobody will hire me after everything. Tamara left. Took half of what little I had left. For a moment I felt something like pity. Then I remembered the will reading, the changed locks, the smug smile. What do you want from me? I asked. A loan, or maybe a job, something to get me back on my feet. I know I don't deserve it, but— You're right, I interrupted. You don't deserve it. He flinched. But I'll help you on one condition. He looked up, hope flickering. Anything. Tell me the truth about the will, about Dad, all of it. Ryan stood there silent, wrestling with himself. Then slowly he sat down on the porch steps. Tamara pushed me, he started quietly. The company was failing, I was drowning, Dad got sick and she said it was a sign that he'd want me to have everything so I could save the business. Did you forge the will? I asked bluntly. He shook his head. No, but I convinced him when he was weak, confused. I told him you didn't need help, that you were doing fine, that the company was the real legacy and I was the only one who could run it. The truth settled between us like a stone. He trusted you, I said. I know, Ryan's voice cracked. I thought I was saving something, instead I destroyed everything, the company, our relationship, his name. You destroyed my trust, I said. That's what you really took. Ryan wiped his eyes. I'm sorry, Ethan, I know it doesn't fix anything, but I'm sorry. I looked at him, really looked. He wasn't the arrogant brother anymore, just a broken man who'd learned the price of greed. I forgive you, I said finally. His head snapped up. But forgiveness doesn't erase consequences. I helped Ryan find work, basic contracting, nothing fancy. Enough to survive, not enough to fail again. He'd have to rebuild from the bottom the way he should have years ago. No shortcuts, no handouts, just work. I moved into the house fully, spending evenings restoring it room by room. I found Dad's old tools in the garage, the ones I thought I'd lost forever. They fit my hands perfectly. One night I hung Dad's letter on the mantel, framed. You were always the responsible one, it read. Don't let Ryan ruin what I built. I'd saved it, not with revenge, but with patience, integrity, and strategy. The Caldwell name meant something again. Ryan called once a month, checking in. Our conversations were short, civil, we'd never be close again, but we were brothers, and maybe that was enough. I stood on the porch one evening watching the sun set over Maple Ridge. The house was quiet, solid, mine. Dad would have been proud, not because I'd beaten Ryan. Because I'd honored what mattered, truth, dignity, and doing things the right way. That was the real inheritance, and nobody could ever take that away. If you've ever had to rebuild what family tried to destroy, share your story below. You're not alone. Justice doesn't always roar, sometimes it just works quietly, one honest decision at a time.